Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Thought Leaders. My name is David Webley. Great to have everyone back for in-person events here at Granite HQ. We put these online during the pandemic, as many of you would probably have joined. But it's amazing to have people back in person. The idea behind these events is to connect our community with world-class experts and share information and help each other grow together. So delighted to welcome Maria Montgomery, who's a long-time associate of ours here at Granite Consulting. And congratulations on your book, first of all, Maria, The Art of Getting Business Analysis Right. And we're going to be gifting some of these copies later on. So today we're talking about the art of business analysis, how to unleash excellence in business analysis, building a world-class BA practice.
Obviously, my name is Maria Montgomery, and I help organisations and individuals in delivering the best business analysis practices in ever-changing project world, but also transformations that we go through these days in every organisation, including the one that I'm in at the moment. I'm a leader. Obviously, I've written a book, and writing the book has been a passion of mine. And somebody reminded me in here, thanks, Gina. It was 5 years ago that we were in here in Granite, and I set myself a goal that I was going to write a book. So eventually, that was a very interesting journey, but what transpired to me was so good to share my experience and what I've learned over, I won't tell you how long, but it will show my age in this space. I'm also a trainer, facilitator, and a coach. And since 2014, I think I was even before MLCL time, I've had a great passion of mentoring and coaching people. So I also mentor and coach people as my passion. And to your point just recently about NAB, I've had some individuals come into me in that regard and kind of missing that BA practice and community. In addition to my private projects, I've also held a position as a technology engagement manager at UniSuper, and that's been, I guess, an interesting career progression for me. I have a wealth of knowledge in many different challenging business transformations, and I've got a bit of an entrepreneurial background where I've also, believe it or not, had a sushi business on the side, and I did apply business analysis skill set in that space, and that was post MLCL time. So over the years, I did have a privilege to work in many different organisations, particularly in the finance sector. I have been at NAB, I have been at ANZ, MLCL, insurance, superannuation, but I also touched on a little bit in the health sector as well. And logistics is where I started from. I thrive to solve and tackle complex problems, and I liked uncovering innovative approaches where my passion lies to where I like to succeed, and hopefully share all these details. So that's about me. I think I've enough about me. I'll kick off the presentation. So I'll do the acknowledgement of the country. It's something that I've been practicing. So I like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri, and I'm struggling to pronunciate it, people as the traditional owners of the Yaquli William. And this is the name that it means river, and river camp or river dwellers, later named Williamstown, is where I actually live. So I thought I'll share a picture just to kind of show you that I really enjoy living there, and I love the parks and waters that I walk on. I appreciate and I have deep respect for them, caring for all the waters, beaches, parks, which I obviously love walking around. And I pay my respect to our elders, past and present. Today what I will do is actually show you 7 key ingredients that will help you build the best business analyst practice, which will reduce rework and hopefully make you more happier and less stressed, particularly if you're a project manager or program manager trying to deliver. You probably already know that most projects, particularly, I've been a lot of projects myself, don't always get delivered on time, on budget, and quite often they might not meet customer needs or expectations. Did you know that research actually shows that 70 to 85% of rework is actually due to poor analysis or incomplete requirements? And outside of that, there's actually 40 to 50% that constitutes to project cost. I just thought this was an interesting fact, and I did a bit of a research myself. It was actually in 1940s is when actually business analysis started as a practice. And it was when the first programmable computers were actually born. And what I discovered is that it became apparent within particularly government and university sector, there's large volume of data, and there was complex problems that needed to be resolved, and stakeholders being universities struggled to talk to programmers, funny that. So they created a role called system analyst. You might or may not remember that. And they were kind of used as a translators with the programmers. And it wasn't what I've discovered. My journey has been when I started as a junior BA, 1994 at Ansett, which is no longer around. The airline industry is when I started, it's like nearly 3 decades ago. I remember sitting at the company, and I was called a business analyst. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So half my time was working on financial projects, doing business analysis in the financial side of things, and I did finish my degree eventually in accounting. But half my time was actually spent on process mapping, and I had a manager that actually wanted to also build programs like backyard jobs kind of in VB that he was making me do, and I absolutely hated programming. But what programming did teach me is what it meant to have an end product, what it meant to do a bit of analysis, and I continued my journey into business analysis because I enjoy problem solving. My interaction skills were strong, and that's where I continued my journey. But the role of business analyst has evolved over the years, and I find in a decade, even hearing you talk now, it seems to have become, the importance of business analysts are apparent, and we've changed. We've got roles from business analyst to process analyst to technical analysts. They're still they're not called system analysts anymore, but we also get involved a little bit in the architecture, strategic levels as well. Okay, I just wanted to share this slide with you because I thought it was funny. But where this came about, I was having a drink with my husband, believe it or not, a month ago, and I was complaining to somebody posted a LinkedIn, I mentioned the name, talking about BA role as being in a hardware shop and being a glue. And I said, we do much more than that, you remember? So I said to my husband, I can't believe you said that. So my husband, he works totally different industry, said, well, explain to me simple terms. I can never explain to people what you actually do. He said, how would you explain business analyst role to somebody that walks down the street? And I'm like, why would the person down the street needs to know what I do? Everybody else in my industry knows what I do. So I did a bit of a survey on LinkedIn, and what came about from BA world and I like the detectives. We need to be strong detectives and I like Sherlock as an example to be able to uncover and get evidence and find those problems and solutions. We also play a role as consultants. So if you're talking about product managers not knowing what they want, well, we need to kind of consult, and quite often they expect us to even have the skill set and knowledge to tell them what they want. We are interpreters. We need to interpret those requirements. Quite often we're mediator because people are fighting for different priorities, and also coaches. We need to coach people in technology. But one word that I really like, somebody described it as a babblefish. They get into the ears of the business to understand their problems, and they interpret them to those who can help them. I kind of thought that was interesting. What I find is the current challenges are problems, and even hearing you talk about before, that there's a lack of standardised business analysis community. I have moved between, and from experience, different organisations. From NAB, actually was at NAB where they had a BA practice, quite a mature BA practice, and I think it was working quite well, to MLCL, or even where I'm currently at UniSuper. That they kind of restructured and didn't think they needed a BA practice. And what I've found that we need business analysts community. We need to be together and actually work together to a successful outcome. There's also lack of clarity of business analyst role and responsibility. quite often that's not clear. So if you're upfront in a project, I personally spend a lot of time with my team back at UniSuper, working on our vision, goals, but also roles, clear description of roles and responsibilities. And the reason why I needed to do that, I had all different projects that some of them required business analysts, like full-on kind of that included process mapping, looking at the business problems, but the others were technical projects that I wanted to, small projects that things needed to change very quickly, and trying to put those business analysts with core skill sets on these technical projects didn't necessarily work because technology can be quite difficult to understand. We also got stakeholders' expectations, and going back to your point, Sheena, so sometimes they expect BAs to be jacks of all trades and not understand. And I think what's really important is that constant upskilling. The reason why I've got that tree in a book is that even personally myself, there's so many different components that BAs need to know and be accustomed to. There's technology, we call cloud solution. We've got Azure, some of those integration and companies that are currently dealing with, but we also need knowledge. And what I've discovered in superannuation finance, the business analysts are required, particularly with, I won't call them difficult, but different stakeholders. They expect you to kind of have the knowledge in that area, because they don't want to be explaining to you, what their needs are. So I found that, and I've moved between different organisations, I was able to do that. But sometimes business analysts, when you're working on projects, you might not necessarily have that experience. So I think that constant upskilling can be problematic for some of us.
And I just ask, can we just go back to that one? I've just got a question around, what's your view around, so you talk about centralised business analysis community. So you're quite often seeing companies, people have business BAs, tech BAs. Now, one of the things I've observed, and I've been doing this long enough, I can remember recruiting systems analysts 25 years ago, is that because technology have had more project maturity than most business units, where they've just had SMEs doing projects, then we're almost a victim of our own success, because project management methodology, technology's been ahead of the business, but people still talk about the business and technology, as I've just done then, yet technology is across every part of the business. So should you have one group in a community of BAs across the whole business, and should they report to the COO, the CIO? How do you manage the two different groups? I'm interested to get your perspective on that, Maria.
So it's a very good question, because we've just actually recently been through that journey at UniSuper. So we ended up creating a business analysis practice, but that practice also included process analysis, because what we covered, there was a bit of a discrepancy between process. We've got business, and we also got technology, business analysis in one community. And I've actually led and created the business analysis community, where we met every fortnight, and that community was tasked with actually help uplift the BA practice. So they were on that journey. So it wasn't that we picked up templates and so forth from an external company. And we've got a manager that oversees the three practices, actually.
And that's across all projects, whether they be business, tech, whatever they might be.
That's correct, yes. There is a bit of a journey, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the agile ways of working. What we discovered, and I'm technology engagement manager at the moment, is that some of those smaller projects, so big projects are okay, but when you've got your BAU smaller projects, can be a little bit challenging to get things delivered, get into we call it a DNI, delivery information technology. And there has been, they call them fusion teams, squad teams, if you like. And they've got BAs embedded in those teams, and they're going to follow that agile kind of BAU approach. But it still is challenging. What I try to do, sorry, I will get to you. I've actually, and I might have shared that with you, we became like even a knowledge bank as a BA community to see where everybody's strengths, weaknesses and knowledge is, so that we can appropriately resource competency on different. So that can be a challenge as well, because some people might be more technical but not necessarily strong in the facilitation, your basic business analysis skills. So we need to make sure that we and we uplift them as well. Obviously, the impact of full business analysis is all the real work. I've been on many large programs where one particular I like to kind of share with you was actually at NAB 7-8 years ago, and I was the first lead BA that said, I'll try agile ways of working. This is the first time that agile came out. My practice manager wasn't happy, but I just wanted to learn about agile because it was a new thing to do. And on that journey, we went from, we wanted to do 4, there was a bit of, it was more like in between, hybrid approach. But what happened on that project is that my project manager said, we just got to deliver, and he accepted the requirements, which weren't clear enough, and I ended up coming one morning with 100 defects against requirements. I had about 5 BAs, me being the lead, and we had to go and help with the testing and discovering all the problems are. And that was due because the requirements weren't clear enough, so we didn't spend enough time. So I think that was a discovery phase now to kind of go, okay, we need to do more planning, because at the end, rework does cost money, costs resources and so forth. Obviously, there's a delayed project delivery, not meeting our customer, and also cost overruns. So I think we've kind of covered those to death, haven't we? We'll go to the next one. So this is the model that I've put together coming from my experience, and I'll, in the next slide, go a little bit more deep dive, but I kind of felt that in order to get it right, if we wanted to look at the strategic view to help us plan our practices and plan what we need to get, be mindful to do, is all about people. I mean, we talked a lot about people and their experiences. It's about structure, having that right governance. It's about competency. Competence is very important, and it's so big, and ensuring that BAs own that work, as well as the leaders, that there's a collaboration and also the right structure. I developed this service catalogue at UniSuper so that they, you can pick out and see what are those deliverables, what are the things that we actually, as business analysts, need to deliver, and that kind of maybe interlinks, if you have these right, interlinks so that, to minimise the degree of having incorrect requirements. So if we task and we got the tools and a toolbox of things that we need to ask, and also others understand, it will help with getting those requirements right. Yeah, and I think we covered a lot in terms of, collaboration, but it's also having the right people involved. I think sometimes making sure that we covered from that analytical perspective, that the right stakeholders are engaged. And some of the things that I've experienced, the lessons learned on projects, is that at times we might not, and that's why process map come very handy, not understanding the impact on other teams and what their requirements are, because sometimes those departments live in their own bubble. They've got their own requirements and they might be making changes, but it might make a huge impact on another team by creating errors or things that they need to operationally fix. We talked about governance, making sure peer reviews and approvals. I've kind of found that it adds a lot of value having that quality, particularly if you're in between agile, waterfall. I feel at times that gets lost, the quality, with some of the BAs that I've even personally had on my journey in my teams. Risk management, I think they're great, providing that risk management to the project managers upfront when they start getting involved, and competence. And we covered a lot about competency, but to me, and particularly in my book, I do align it to IIBA, because it is an industry standard around, what the business analysts, I guess, need to do from a delivery perspective. And I have created a competency levels where I've talked about auditing your skills, and seeing what level you are as a BA, where you need to professionally develop and upskill. And there's obviously different pathways to do that. Okay, how to build the best business analyst practice. So to me, and we touched on a little bit before, it's understanding the value of business analysis. It's almost like a sales job, and making sure that our business, that our stakeholders understand the true value. What does it mean? What does it mean if we don't get it right? What does those business analysis in simple terms mean? It's also having the right, I think, leadership We need to have driving the right and people, recruiting the right people. I've customised the way that I've recruited too. Particularly, I know there's that transition. You mentioned that before. When you're going out there looking for people, and I used to have to put in extra requirements there. For example, they might need cloud solution experience. They might need technical. I'll specifically specify what are those special skills that I'm looking for outside of those common business analysis skill set. Your core competency, facilitation, problem solving, stakeholder management, delivering user stories requirements. But sometimes those user stories can be technical stories, so I needed to look for a different BA with a different skill set. So that's kind of where the difference, and that was my journey of learning also as a manager of business analysts. Obviously, we covered a lot around competency levels. I keep reiterating its methods, tools and support. Every organisation might slightly vary of what those deliverables are, depending on what methodology you use. I've gone from totally agile to being totally waterfall and UniSuper about 3.5 years ago, having to write BRDs to now going on a journey of agile and writing user stories, and that's a journey. And I've been now tasked with creating what does the good look like? What does the good user story look like? BA community is very important, and also striving for that centre of excellence. I think the centre of excellence goes around quality, ensuring they've got right quality, what good looks like, what bad looks like, and that all contributes that less of that rework. And it comes from a leadership. I don't want to say it's BA's always ownership, but they should also own their work when those things clear.
You also need the executive sponsorship, don't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Execs that actually see the value of what the BA practice can bring and are going to support it.
Think about it as a checklist of, people, collaboration, knowledge. We talked a lot about knowledge, and it is about knowledge, about structure, competency, quality. And I sneaked in the down, and it didn't come from the agile terminology, but to me, as a business analyst, you always think about, even in a business analysis term, when you're trying to explain the value of business analysis is why, who, what, how, when and where. If you can answer all those questions, those are my favourite.
Maria, thank you so much. I know you're super busy, and for taking the time today. And of course, everyone for getting involved in a really robust discussion. These events are nothing without everybody participating and being part of the community. So we hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.